Hello everyone, it's Rachel from Aeolian Heart Astrology, and I'm super excited to be presenting another monthly forecast, this for the season of Aries, which is the sun's exaltation. And this month I'm going to be featuring the life and the work of Leonardo da Vinci, who was born April 15th, meaning that he was an Aries. Leonardo da Vinci is a legend. He's almost an archetype, more than mere human, in terms of the ripple effect that his legacy has had on Western art and science. So I hope you enjoy. Also, to celebrate the entry of the sun into Aries, which is the zodiacal new year, I have decided to offer a class that is devoted to the sun in Aries for free. It's called Fire, the Power and the Glory of the Sun in Aries. I'm presenting this class to anyone who wants to come, and you can register for free by clicking the link in the description box below. So I really hope to see you there. The sun in Aries is the strongest solar season of the year. It's the zodiacal new year, and I really hope you appreciate Fire, the power and the glory of the sun in Aries. Now on to the seasonal forecast for the sun in Aries. Enjoy. The light shineth in darkness. Forecast for Aries season, March 20th through April 19th, 2022. On Sunday, March 20th, 2022, the spring equinox arrives in the northern hemisphere, shifting the light and heralding the arrival of spring, as well as a new zodiacal year. Following the equinox, the sun's supremacy in the heavens is reborn, summoning the renewal of life on earth. The sun begins its new cycle in the cardinal fire sign of Aries, which quickens the pulse of everything in creation. Like the earth itself, you will start to feel awakened and aroused into action. The sun in Aries craves the opportunity to break through the darkness. It is turned on by the adrenaline rush of battle. This warring instinct in Aries is not driven by bloodlust, but by the knowledge that tremendous growth is catalyzed through struggle. You can see this in all of nature, and it is why the spirit of Aries also represents birth. The birth of blades of grass breaking through the surface, the birth of a chicken with its beak pecking out of a shell, the birth of a child with its bloody head crowning through the birth canal. All forms of birth are predicated upon struggle. And now the fires of Aries come to illuminate the darkness, awakening you to a sense of purpose that has been hiding beneath many layers of confusion and despair. Even in times of chaos, the rhythm of the seasons remains steady, guiding the development of life, much more than anything in society. Amidst uncertainty, the sun's rebirth in the fire sign of Aries still breaks open the heavens with a vision of renewal. The rhythm of the seasons is the earth's graceful dance with the cosmos. And the human spirit is greatly humbled when it remembers that even the world's greatest dramas are only microscopic ripples in the vast web of nature. Not even an atomic war can stop the sun from rising. And throughout millennia, the joy of the earth's renewal has been felt, even amidst times of war, plague, and famine. These cycles are larger than human history. They are bigger than the rise and fall of empires. The emergence of spring is a benediction, poetically described by the ancient Greeks as the goddess Persephone's return from the underworld. This is the season of resurrection and renewal, the promise of eternal life. The sun's ascension through the sky can inspire you to reach higher and climb above the clouds of uncertainty, seeing through the void to the light beyond. Guided by this vision, the spirit of Aries boldly leaps forward into the future with courage, knowing there is nothing to fear but fear itself. Astronomically speaking, the sun is a ball of burning gas in a state of constant motion, combustion, and eruption. The fire of the sun is at the heart of all living things. This primal connection to fire was observed in the ancient world by Heraclitus of Ephesus, the most influential of the pre-Socratic philosophers. Heraclitus defined the underlying governance of nature as an ever-living fire, whose incessant transformations are at the heart of the cycle of life and death. It is fire that turns all the wheels within wheels. In Heraclitus's view, fire was the omnipresent dance of life in nature and the dancing light of intelligence within humanity. This dancing light, the divine spark of consciousness, was also known as the Logos. In the beginning was the Logos. The word Logos in the prologue of John's Gospel has been translated to word in English, but Logos means the divine word of creation, the divine mind of the cosmos. Logos is the inward thought and outward speech of the divine, and its light is within all beings. The season of Aries engenders the birth of new life on earth, as well as igniting the divine spark, or the light of the Logos within. Now, before you can spring forward into the light of the new season, it is important to pause for reflection. The last weeks of Pisces season were the very definition of abysmal. And this means that the waters grew very, very dark, dragging millions of people's lives into another collective crisis. Now, you may recall, as soon as the war drums started to rumble, the virus seemed to vanish. A turbulent storm erupted, rapidly changing the geopolitical landscape. On your left are the looming clouds of World War III, and on your right are the waves of economic catastrophe. The astrology for Pisces season made it clear that the end of February would be a major turning point in history due to the United States' Pluto return. And within 48 hours of the exact date, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. This happened under the influence of Mars in Aquarius, indicating that this invasion is a conquest of ideologies, even more than a land grab. And by the end of the season, when Mars goes into Pisces on April 14th, the spirit of war will focus on attacking through subtle energies, through the sorcery of propaganda, and by poisoning the well. Now, the invasion of Ukraine has begun a major tectonic shift, signaling the first crack in the unipolar power of the United States-centered global imperialism. Putin's invasion signals the end to the US control on all international affairs, using military threats and economic sanctions. And as usual, it is innocent people that are suffering, while the psychopaths in power are playing games. In a sickening display of twisted irony, the war criminals in Washington, D.C., the very same ones that gleefully supported the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, are now outraged at Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, whether the leaders in the US are totally corrupt or just completely unconscious of their hypocrisy doesn't matter. Either way, the political climate seems very dangerous with people like these in charge. Everyone is afraid, but fear leads nowhere fast. Fear not. Fear is the mind killer and the soul crusher. To live without fear is the only way to be free. Now, once upon a time, not so long ago, when the world was in crisis, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt used his position of power to inspire the American people to have courage by saying, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Now, global problems of the magnitude we are facing right now will not evaporate overnight. However, the boldness of the Aryan spirit can inspire you to find the courage and strength to not lose yourself in the hysteria. Since there are no leaders in power speaking words of encouragement right now, the spiritual light in FDR's words will have to inspire us in this time as well. Remember, the only thing to fear is fear itself. Now, standing for peace in a time of war takes the most courage when everyone demands that you take a side. But you have a fire within you to become a light in the dark. And during Aries season, the renewal of life on Earth can inspire the renewal of your mind, one that can hear the voice of reason amidst hysteria, the voice of love over the roar of hate, and the pulse of courage beneath the panic. As St. Paul once told the Romans, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind." The pattern of the world never changes. It operates through the mass mind of fear and tells the never-ending story of war. But the fires of Aries symbolize the power of renewal, rebirth. Out of darkness emerges a light that you must follow, guiding you, warming you, and asking you to lead. It is always inspiring to observe the light of the sun through the life of an historical figure. And the fires of Aries have never burned brighter than through the Renaissance genius Leonardo da Vinci. Sigmund Freud, many centuries later, said of Leonardo da Vinci, "He was like a man who awoke too early in the darkness, while the others were all still asleep." Now, Da Vinci had very humble origins. He was born an illegitimate child on April 15th, 1452. Not much is known of his early childhood, except that by the age of 14, he began a serious apprenticeship in the arts. He's famous for saying, "Without mathematics, there is no art." For over 500 years, Leonardo da Vinci has represented the gold standard for the archetype of the Renaissance man. And this is because he demonstrated boundless talents for sculpture, painting, linguistics, botany, zoology, anatomy, geology, music, architecture, invention, and engineering. His mind seemed to represent the logos unbound, gracefully weaving all levels of consciousness together with an innocent enthusiasm. The light in his mind was both intellect and imagination, allowing him to conceptualize inventions like the bicycle and the airplane many centuries before their time. Da Vinci was also quite socially intelligent, for he was well acquainted with many of the most powerful people of the era, including Niccolò Machiavelli, Cesare Borgia, and Lorenzo de' Medici. In 1482, Da Vinci entered the service of the Duke of Milan, where he spent 17 years exploring new heights of scientific and artistic achievement. The Duke commissioned all kinds of work from him, including painting and sculpture, as well as the design of weapons, buildings, and machinery. Now, as an Aries, Da Vinci's mind was a blazing torch. But the nature of cardinal fire ignites quickly, but struggles to stay aflame through any long process. Leonardo da Vinci was notorious for leaving projects unfinished. In fact, in the 17 years that he was employed by the Duke, he only completed 6 works of art, including one of his most famous pieces, The Last Supper. The Last Supper was painted between 1495 and 1498 as a tempera and oil mural on plaster, depicting the New Testament Passover scene when Jesus Christ addresses the apostles and foretells that one of you shall betray me. This is the event that leads to Jesus' crucifixion, death, and resurrection, symbolizing the Aryan theme of the sun's cycle of rebirth and renewal. The correlation between the sun and Jesus Christ is widely explored in this painting, for it is not only geometrically complex using the golden mean. Da Vinci's Last Supper is also laced with astrological references. Jesus represents the sun, and the 12 apostles represent the 12 signs of the zodiac. The underlying geometry of the painting show the lines of perspective traveling from the eyes of Jesus like the radiant beams of a sunrise. But what really points to the astrological dimensions of this painting are the 36 engravings on the ceiling, representing the 36 decans of the ancient Egyptian zodiac. When every one of the 12 signs is divided into 3 parts, the decans emerge. The history of the 36 decans stretches back to ancient Egypt, where the first zodiac wheel, called the Dendera zodiac, was found. This was a map of 36 star constellations engraved upon the ceiling of the Hathor temple at Dendera. In the Last Supper, the 36 decans are referenced by the 36 engravings on the ceiling. And on Jesus' right hand, the Apostle Thomas points upward, asking the viewer to notice the symbol of heaven above. Da Vinci encoded a variety of mathematical and religious symbolism into the Last Supper. Much of it was intentionally esoteric, for in Leonardo's own words, realize that everything connects to everything else. This is the Hermetic wisdom that knows nature as an interwoven web of consciousness. Like heaven and earth, the works of Leonardo da Vinci were interconnected by an invisible geometric harmony. The light of the Logos gave him the power to see how everything was connected, which is why his art offers such a meditative journey for mathematicians, scientists, art historians, religious scholars, and esotericists alike. But the deepest purpose of the Last Supper is to reveal a key moment in the story of the Logos, the light that never goes out, that is murdered by ignorance and resurrected by love. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. The great gift of Aries season is to let the light of the Logos shine through you, renewing your mind and spirit for the year ahead. To contemplate the mysteries of the Logos this Aries season, spend time meditating on the new commandment that Jesus gave his disciples at the Last Supper. He said, "A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another." Hey everyone, it's me again. I just wanted to remind you that if you are interested in learning more about the sun in Aries, because there is so much more, you can register for my free class, Fire, the Power and the Glory of the Sun in Aries. Link in the description box below. It is totally free, and I hope to see you there. Forecast for Aries season. The season begins with the equinox on March 20th. The light is ascending, and the promise of renewal is fulfilled. The change in seasons brings many gifts of inspiration and, of course, renewed energy. But the season of Aries begins with a waning moon. This urges you to burn away all of your pent-up emotions with a rush of blood to the head. This may feel warm and pleasant, summoning blushing cheeks and a burst of laughter, or it may erupt like a violent fever, burning up whatever pain you've been holding on to inside. This season will summon the light of heaven and the fires of hell. But ultimately, your faith in divine providence will be restored. This is the season of the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces, a transcendent union of spiritual energies that has not occurred since 1856. During this month, you'll see a vision of a bright future, full of the promise of renewal. On March 26th, Mercury enters Aries. The collective mind will become lit up by a wild, rebellious streak. Suddenly, you'll feel inspired to speak your mind, emphasizing your opinions as being valuable. Yes, it can summon a wave of arrogance, but there is a rough cut and charismatic intelligence breaking through the status quo ideas at this time, and it will feel refreshing. Independent minds will sparkle under this transit. Passionate ideas will burn more brightly, and amazing momentum will build behind your brightest ideas. On April 1st, the new moon in Aries arrives. New moons summon a fresh cycle of creative and emotional energies. The unity of solar and lunar qualities creates a seed moment of growth. But with a conjunction to Mercury and Chiron in Aries, this new moon is born wounded. This new moon may ask you to make a sacrifice to help another, and it will cultivate the wisdom that only deep pain can produce. Do you remember what I said about the struggle of birth? This new moon has that in spades. Now, words are the best medicine at this time. Used wisely, there will be great rewards, healing, and understanding. But those that use words as weapons, especially against the innocent, will find themselves caught in a trap. The ruler of this new moon in Aries is Mars. And Mars is currently transiting Aquarius, which will be inching up to a conjunction to Saturn. This union between the malefics will drag the vibe of this new moon down. Everything will become slow and laborious, even agonizing at times. It's like a sprightly rabbit getting its leg caught in a trap. If you read the news, it'll probably seem bad, so ignore it as best you can, because there are many beautiful skies ahead this month. There are plenty of redemptive moments to enjoy. Now, this Mars-Saturn conjunction remains a heavy influence in the beginning of April. You'll probably feel it for the first week, but it's most powerfully felt between April 1st and the 4th. This is a stress point. These are easily the worst days in the month. And life may seem to be clamping down like a vice. The tension might feel unbearable at times, and it is important to relax into this, the way that you relax into any long uphill climb. The combination of Mars and Saturn often produces a feeling of total overwhelm, where there is just too much to accomplish, Mars, in too little time, Saturn. This sense of urgency and constriction can be channeled into immense discipline and focus. Those able to tap into this influence without burning out can move mountains during this time. But even if you fail to be productive, it is still essential to remain cool, calm, and collected. April 5th brings the beautiful transit of Venus through Pisces, and this will feel like a healing balm to the beginning of the month. Now, Venus has been through hell in 2022. The year began with her retrograde through Capricorn. Then there was an elongated planetary war with Mars that lasted through February and half of March. And then Venus remained stuck between Mars and Saturn, literally a rock and a hard place, until March 26th. Is it any wonder that the world has become so cold and hard in the last couple months? Well, finally, on this day, April 5th, Venus escapes the harsh edges of Aquarius and finally returns to her birthplace, the vast oceans of Pisces. This sign is Venus's exalted placement, meaning that the world will be graced by Venusian bliss once again. Now, in Pisces, all the best qualities of Venus are at their apex of expression. The experience of love, beauty, eroticism, creativity, imagination, and fertility are all greatly enhanced while Venus is in this sign. And when Venus is in Pisces, her powers freely flow. The expansiveness of the oceanic realm magnifies her powers of attraction. Venus makes everything glisten and gleam, summoning new waves of love and luxury. The power of Venus in Pisces can be summarized as the desire to give birth to something transcendent. And because Venus governs the experience of love and desire, when she is in her sign of exaltation, her power to attract and experience love becomes all-encompassing. It is in Pisces that all types of love can emerge. Divine love, maternal love, romantic love, erotic love. It's an ocean of love. On April 11th, Mercury will move into Taurus. This makes the collective mind turned on to synesthesia, interpreting the sensual experiences of life through words that evoke beauty and splendor and sensation. This transit will calm down any personal or collective mania, slowing down the tempo of thoughts, cooling down the heat of temper. It may be a very welcome change. A lot of important ruminating can be done during this transit, and it is a great time to plan ahead and get very serious about budgeting and allocating resources. Mercury in Taurus is the epitome of practicality. Finally, we come to April 12th, wherein Jupiter and Neptune conjoin in Pisces. This is a very long-awaited conjunction, and it is very important. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, in its sign of rulership in Pisces, is going to merge with the mystical and transcendent influence of Neptune in Pisces. We might see a wave of bliss arise. And both planets are in rulership here, so they will be bringing a soothing celestial harmony. This is a very important alignment that will bring a powerful vibe shift, ushering in a new era of imagination and spirituality. Now, this conjunction has not happened between Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces since 1856, making this a rare moment for the evolution of humanity's collective dream world. This influence will put everything into soft focus. Realism will be chased away by magic. Rough edges will be smoothed by the waves. Now, this conjunction signals a moment that can awaken many from the darkness of fear. The light of the logos will break through the clouds, and the influence of Neptune may summon waves of transcendental ideas, marking the beginning of a worldwide renaissance. Now, while the energy of this conjunction will be potent for the rest of April, this April 12th is a seed moment that will continue to flourish in the collective for more than a decade. All things imaginative, oceanic, and cinematic will be greatly blessed. There will be great insight, wisdom, and creative flourishing to uplift some of the suffering in the world. So I do see this as a turning point in the pandemic, and it's a turning point in the way we relate to the war and the potential wars, and it's a way we begin to shift our relationship to the world in a really positive way. Now, many will discover a new light in their mind, guiding them to devote their life to something more mystical or philosophical. Suffering can become compassion. Compassion only comes from suffering, as a matter of fact. And so a lot of spiritual idealism and philosophies of peace are going to gain tremendous influence. And as the light of imagination becomes more vivid, tremendous creativity is inspired. But this also makes you more susceptible to delusion. In this time of war, with a mass media propaganda machine running 24/7, you must be extremely careful in the month of April, especially around this time, not to believe everything you hear. Start by assuming that everything coming from global corporate government media is duplicitous at best. Build up immunity to the deception. And as mass media spreads the fog of war, look within and follow your own light. And you should also be warned that the oceanic bliss of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces is haunted by some siren calls, seducing many to slip beneath the dark waters of addiction. The dangerous side to this influence will stir the desire to be in another world, to be in a better world. and it will be easier than ever to become seduced by the promise of any escape from reality, to float away on the clouds of a narcotic haze. Drugs, alcohol, and toxic romance only offer false tranquility, and they'll eventually take you down for good. So be aware, be aware. On April 14th, Mars will move into Pisces. And since the sign of Aries is ruled by Mars, the shift of martial energy is important. When Mars was in Aquarius until this day, the spirit of war was trying to win scientifically with a very cold heart and a rational mind. On April 14th, the spirit of war becomes drowned in a sea of confusion and irrationality. War is not an exact science at all. And with Mars in Pisces, war is waged beneath the surface through much subtler powers of sorcery and propaganda. The winner will be the one who can stir the most emotional reaction. April 16th, a couple days later, near the end of the season, the full moon arrives in the cardinal air sign of Libra. The axis of Aries Libra stirs up the tension between self and other, commanding and compromising. The ultimate purpose of a Libra full moon is to bring dissonance into harmony. Now, like tuning a piano, many minute adjustments to the tensions of the strings will have to be made in order to find that harmony. Now, the harmony that Libra desires does not simply happen. True harmony requires recalibration, inviting the wild vacillation of polarities to be expressed before discovering the center of gravity that brings everything back into peace. So I do see some peacemaking being possible at this time. This full moon is in a T-square with Pluto in Capricorn. And this will darken the atmosphere with manipulation and politics. Think of it as a pressure cooker, and it is meant to test your willpower and your integrity. Can you stand for what you believe? Or do you just follow orders? Finally, on April 19th, the sun will leave its exaltation in Aries for the sign of Taurus. The volatility of fire is exchanged for the stability of earth, and wildfires begin to cool. The middle of spring is the glory of the earth's beauty. Stirred by fertile flowers and lingering warmth, when the sun is in Taurus, the touch, taste, and fragrance of everything becomes elated by a new richness and depth. Nobody is promised tomorrow. So the wisdom of Taurus asks you to stop clamoring for more time, instead appreciating the quality of the time that you have. Time is relative to how present you can be in each moment. For watching. If you enjoyed this monthly forecast and my astrological style, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that you will always know when I put up new content like this or even better. Also, do not forget that I am offering a free class that is devoted to illuminating the myth and the magic of the sun in Aries. It's called Fire, the Power and the Glory of the Sun in Aries. You can register for that free class by clicking the link in the description box below, and I hope to see you there. Ta-ta for now. I'll be back in Taurus season. Peace out.